And we are live here on Plus One EXP. Welcome, Mobius Triptych, as well as anybody else who's watching. This is the interstellar debut of the Snow Queen RPG, which is a Keepsake game coming up from Jeeyon later on this year somewhere. The best place to stay up to date about what's happening with the Snow Queen, if you want to, is at the link right below Jeeyon. ttrpg.link /sqgame will take you straight to the mailing list, so you can stay up to date for when and where the game is launching. We are going to dive into it. I am very excited. There's not a lot of times when somebody's like, do you want to play a game, where I giggle a little bit, and I was like with excitement. And when Jeeyon asked a while ago if I was willing to do an actual play of this, I did, and I am super excited. So Jeeyon, for people who may or may not be familiar with you, go ahead and tell them who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about the Snow Queen.
Absolutely. My name is Jeeyon Shim. I'm an outdoor educator turned full-time game designer. I design a lot of games that are anchored in the world around us, the material world, the natural world, whatever you want to call it. If you are in the indie ttrpg scene, you might have heard of me from Field Guide to Memory, which I co-designed with my collaborator Shing Core. I also have kickstarted several other games like Wait For Me, I believe that was July 2020, The Shape of Shadows, Last Will and Testament of Gideon Blythe, and I've also participated in the creation of many other games like Wander Home, Agon. Oh my God, if I try to list them all, I'm gonna be sitting here for 30 minutes. Yeah, I love the outdoors, I love play, and I'm really excited to play the Snow Queen, which is a 2-player kind of wintry fantasy game about a mirrored world, and each player and character's goal is to take as many of the other player's pieces during a chess game as possible. So while you're using the chess moves, you're not using the checkmate function, you're not using the usual strategies of chess. In fact, you do not have to be good at chess to play, because you have one driving motivation, which is to clear the board of your opponent's pieces as much as possible. And that is the only way that you can save your world, even if it costs them theirs. So I'm really excited to play. This is the first ever playtest of this game, like live, so yeah.
Awesome. I'm super excited. Speaking of your love of the natural world and the way that we impact the world around us, do you have any mushrooms you want to show people on the stream?
I do.
Any mushrooms you're excited to share with people?
So for context, I started mushroom hunting as a major hobby of mine last year. This is my second year doing it, and Tony has graciously allowed me one show and tell. This grocery bag is full of golden chanterelles, and to give you an idea of how loudly I screamed with joy when I found this new spot, this is one of the smaller ones that I found, and it's just like, it's as big as my hand, if not bigger.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to, like, the foreshortening, it's like next to my face now. So this is with no foreshortening. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, not even half, like a third of the chanterelles I gathered are bubbling away in a pot of cream and sour cream and butter and potatoes. I'm using a Russian recipe from a restaurant in Portland called Kachka, which basically is 6 ingredients, including salt, that entails just really slow simmering the mushrooms with potatoes and cream and sour cream until it caramelizes, like the dairy caramelizes, and it just imbues it all, and the mushroom flavor imbues the cream, and the cream imbues the mushrooms. This is going to be a very filling wintry meal. I thought that was on brand for the game in this season.
Awesome. And I know that not everybody came here for mushroom talk, though. If you did, you're happy, and I'm happy. I actually just learned how to saute golden chanterelles and prep them like 3 weeks ago. It's a mushroom I hadn't worked a whole lot with. Our face has just disappeared. There we go.
It's okay.
I was pulling up the chess game.
No
a couple of weeks ago, and nobody else in my house would eat them, which made me super delighted.
Oh, that means you lucked out.
Yeah, I was super lucky. No one else in my house wanted any. And so I got them all, which was great. I loved it. And so
They're so good.
my spouse did have some when they got home, but other than that, I was
Right.
able to not have to share them with 4 teenagers, which was great. And
Oh, that's
so
the best, because if you have to share food with teenagers, you're not eating it. They're eating it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, if you want to hit follow, we highlight different indie RPG creators across the board. A couple things we have coming up. I'd love to tell you about before the top is that tomorrow we are going to be playing Necronautilus by Adam Voss, set in the world of cyber metal, also by Adam Voss. So if you're interested about either one of those 2 games, come back at 2 p.m. Eastern time and check that out. We'll be playing live with a giveaway copy of Necronautilus and some credit you can get to upgrade your cyber metal pledge, which is live over on GameFound right now. Also, we are currently itch funding Through the Void, which is our space RPG. You can go check that out over at ttrpg.link /TTV if you want to. And then also on Saturday, we are playing Hull Breach with a bunch of people. It's a giant mothership anthology. We're going to do an interview with the creators from around the globe on that one, and then dive into playing it. You can hit subscribe here. You can also hit subscribe over on YouTube if you want to catch any of those after the fact in our on-demand videos. But with that said, I'm going to bring up the chessboard and let Jeeyon read from your giant, amazing gilded notebook.
Yes. So this is the journal in which I've been compiling all of my development notes and playtest notes. Also, without foreshortening, you can see that it is roughly the size of my torso. And I'm going to have this in front of my face every now and then to read the notes from it as we go. Until I have everything in more or less a streamlined linear document, this is the easiest way to run the game, is essentially kind of facilitate it, even though it is not a game that requires a facilitator in its finished form.
Right. Awesome. I am super excited. Also, we did mention it is a Keepsake game because there's normally a map. We're not necessarily going to be able to get, you're going to be doing the map work, but we're not necessarily going to get to see that till after the game. Is that correct? Is that what I'm thinking?
I will probably be the only one using the map making function for the game. One of the things that I'm playtesting is that this is actually a set of nested games. So the Snow Queen is the 2-player game. There's also a solo journaling Keepsake game where you compile like a trinket box of your character that you use as chess pieces, were you to play in person or just to have.
Awesome.
That is nested within the larger game, but there's an abbreviated version for people who just want to like kind of get going and don't want to do the journaling portion. Cool. And that's what we'll be playing.
And is that the one that we've been getting a taste of over on your Patreon also?
Yes.
Is that awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the one that's called Dear to You.
Yeah. Cool. Also, I will say this. My preteen never logs into my streams, but when I was like, oh yeah, I'm playing with Jeeyon, and I talked about how you're connected to the Mending and like other connected path and Keepsake games, are like, oh, I don't have notifications on for you. What time are you doing that at? So they don't normally watch my stream, but they apparently were excited to watch this stream because they love the type of games that you make.
That's wonderful. Yeah, Amending was made by my collaborator, Shane
right.
But yeah, it's definitely within the spirit of the things that they and I both love to do. So.
All right.
Right. So you should be able to share screen.
Yep. It looks like we may need to start a new match.
Oh, did it time out? Okay.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong one. Hold on. No, they both say the same thing.
Yeah.
Rematch?
Let me get another. Yeah.
There we go.
New game. Let me get the challenge link and I'll send it to you. Same thing. This time the URL, the custom URL, is going to start with the number 6. Cool.
Awesome. I went to the right place this time. We're all set.
All right.
Also, we usually address safety tools at the top. I talked about it right before. We're just going to talk to each other like considerate human beings. Open door policy is in place. If we need to pause, take a break, address anything that comes up, we'll do that in conversation with each other, but we are still being conscious of each other's comfort and safety as we play.
And for what it's worth, the final text version of the game, the safety guidelines are probably going to be pretty similar. Be considerate of each other, care about each other, create an open dialogue.
Cool. All right. I got everything all set up for us.
All right, here we go.
Just timed it out.
Oh, again?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really short timer.
Yeah, I wonder if we can adjust that or something.
I don't know. In that case, why don't we not refresh the rematch until we've created our characters?
That
Does that
sounds
sound good?
That sounds excellent. Let's do that.
All right. So, Tony, since you're hosting, I'll leave it to you. Would you like to play the village girl or would you like to play the snow queen?
I'll play.
Normally it's a coin toss. But
I'll play the village girl because that sounds like less stress, but I also have no idea. So
well, if I designed it right, it should be pretty evenly matched, but we'll see. All right. So, in your dreams, the fox's pale winter coat shines bright under the midsummer sun. You are a girl from the village. What is your name? Jonna, Catalin, Abby, Cynthia, Inga, Beetle, or something else of your own choosing?
I like Catalin.
Ooh, yeah. All right. I will read the portion for the queen, which is the character that I will be playing. In your dreams, the fox's dark summer coat is the one shadow cast on a mantle of snow. You are a queen. What is your name? Jadis, Corinthia, Aliana, Svilanka, Ianthe, or Beatrix. I am going to choose Aliana. All right, so Tony, I'm going to read out the village girl's second step in their character creation. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. You were born in the house you live in, like your mother before you and her mother before her. You have a large, loving family, and you all work together to maintain the beauty and coziness of your shared home. In one sentence each, at most, tell me about your two parents and one grandparent or other elder in your home.
My mom, I'm going to say, is everything I want to be and no one like I'd like to become.
Wonderful.
My dad, always falls asleep by the fire. Let's go with my aunt. Takes me on adventures.
Ooh, I like that. Of the three, who do you think is your anchor?
I'm going to say my mom.
Your mother is represented by both your rooks on the board. Of the three, who do you think gives you the counsel you are most willing to listen to?
I'm going to say my aunt.
She represents the bishops on the board, or rather, the bishops represent her, I should say. And what that means is your father of the three champions your causes. Does that feel true to you?
I think so.
All right. He is represented by the knights. All right. I will read out the queen's step 2, and then we'll move on to step 3, and then we're pretty close to playing, which is very exciting. All right. So this is, I'll be reading in the second person, but it's addressed to me as the player and the character. You were crowned the Queen of Winter so long ago that your memory does not span back to your own coronation. Your rule is not as sovereign, but steward. You guard the heart of the season and ensure that all within your realm thrive. Within my court, I have to choose 3 members: my closest counselor, my prophesier, and my cavalier. I'm going to choose Amanit as my counselor. She is the ambassador of the autumn equinox, and she is represented by my bishops. I will choose Corvus as my chief augur, and they will be represented by my rooks. And I will choose Fanar, who is my second, and she will be represented by my knights. All right. Step 3. Both of us have seen the same boy. His name is Kai, and he lives in the village. You, the village girl, Catalin, have known Kai since you were both infants. He was orphaned, and your family has taken him in as something of, if not a brother, certainly someone within the fold of your pack. Recently, as you've both reached the first stages of adulthood, he's come to mean something else to you. What is it?
I think he's come to represent I think he's come to represent everything that I'm afraid of about becoming my mother.
Oh. If you had to give a single word to that, what would it be?
He represents, trying to think of a single word for being stuck, but if I can have 2 words.
Yeah.
Being stuck.
Being stuck. I met Kai when he stumbled through the mirror that connects both our worlds, a mirror that all queens of the Winter Realm and all seasons know of, and that we guard because should it shatter, one or both of the worlds will be destroyed. But he moved through it as easily as a child stumbling through a doorway. And that is what he seemed like to me, a child, in spite of the fact that he was clearly a young man. In him, I could see the potential of an heir. And that is what he means to me, my future heir. All right, Kai is represented by the king. Now,
Okay.
this is where we start getting into the mechanics of chess and how it differs in the Snow Queen versus how we would normally play a game of chess. Chess, if you are not a naive person like me thinking it a simple game that's easy to summarize, it is not simple. It is one of the most complex and ancient games in the world. It has long strategy, and we're gonna throw all of that out the window. The Snow Queen, it's actually in some ways, I think it is a disadvantage if you are trying to play according to typical chess strategy. There is no such thing as checkmate. There is no such thing as check. The king being in danger is the same as any other piece being in danger, except for you. You, as the queen on the board, cannot be taken by another piece. That is like a major difference in the rules as well. The end games occur in, I believe, one of 2 ways. Let me pull up. Oh, wait, no, it's in these notes. Hang on. So, either literally all of your opponent's pieces are gone. It is just you and however many pieces are left standing on the board. That's one way to reach an endgame. Another way to reach an endgame is if one of your pawns manages to make it all the way across the board unscathed. In normal chess, that means they have a choice. They can either turn into a rook, a bishop, or a knight, or a queen. in the Snow Queen, they can only turn into the queen. And that actually triggers a reincarnation scene. That is its own endgame. It is different than one world falling into ruin and one world surviving.
Okay.
And it's so far it's been pretty rare, but it's a very volatile game, so we'll see what happens. And then I believe the other possible endgame is a draw, in which case, if somehow there is literally no way for either of you to move forward, maybe somehow it's just the two of you left, then there is essentially a combat scene.
Oh, interesting.
That takes place entirely in the dreamscape.
Okay.
So far, this has never happened. I wrote it essentially as a contingency plan, but the result is essentially the same as if someone took all the players on the other side. Like
Okay.
one person loses, one person wins. And that is done through a battle of wits. Which are you familiar with the Sandman?
The Sandman Chronicles by Neil Gaiman, yeah.
Yeah. If you recall, in the Sandman, there's a challenge of wits called the Oldest Game, where two combatants essentially have to shapeshift within the course of like a storytelling, and each thing that they describe pursues the other or defeats the other, outwits the other. That's how you combat each other within this dreamscape. And whoever wins.
And am I correct in remembering that you and Jay just sometimes play the Oldest Game for fun?
Yeah. I actually play it with a lot of my friends. This is a game that I learned as an instructor when I first started working at my last job, which was my outdoor education job. It was a major part of summer programming there. I think it was also a major part of summer programming and remains a major part of summer programming at Jay's old summer job as well. It's really fun. It's a great way to pass the time, and it can be played fairly asynchronously over text or messenger, or if you're just killing time in line. I've played it in line at the DMV with friends of mine. It's a fun game.
I wrote 3 or 4 really bad teenage short stories that incorporated the Oldest Game in some capacity.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, let me very quickly explain the map component. And to do that, I actually have a physical chessboard because I feel like that'll be a little bit easier. I should have extracted all the pieces earlier. So one key difference between any actual play of this game versus playing it yourself is, as players, you're going to decide whether you and your co-player are going to journal it out ahead of time and therefore assign all these pieces and the board's squares their own signifiers that you will discover and like kind of flip over or uncover as you play the game ahead of time, or if you're essentially kind of going to grab them at random from a metaphorical bag as you go, which is what we'll be doing because that's what's the most suitable for live play or a quicker game. So visualizing, oh my God, the glare, visualizing like this chessboard in front of you, right? And this is me and Tony, and I'm playing on this side, Tony's playing on this side. Let's say my rook gets taken on this square. In chess, every square has its own designation. I believe this would be A, B, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe this would be D4. If we had journaled it out ahead of time, my rook gets taken. Tony would read the village girl's upright world version of whatever that square had been determined to be in the village girl's and Catalin's version of her world. Let's say it was like the weaver's hut and loom. It might be something like the bright colors of the loom shine under a midsummer sun. The seasons are turning as they should be. Whereas because my rook was taken, not only would I describe how my world was in ruin there, maybe something like if that was the den of the Bear King, it might be like the summer extended so long that he was unable to forage and it is now empty of any inhabitant. And the rook, who was representative of my closest counsel, if I remember correctly, whose name was Amanit, my ambassador of the autumn equinox, I would describe something terrible that happened to her. Because each piece in the journaling version has an "if all is well," like 1 sentence long prophecy, and an "if you are defeated," 1 sentence long prophecy. All of these things that you're seeing are happening within dreams. the two characters are dreaming of each other, and like the more and more time goes on, the more drawn to each other they feel, and the more they know that this could be real. That's the narrative conceit of the game. We will be playing an abbreviated version where we don't go quite as into the detail, because what we're doing is just testing it mechanically to make sure that it works. We are also not doing the journaling version because I thought that I only had to write 64 prompts, but people who are better at math than me will realize very quickly it's actually 256 prompts, because it has to be 2 versions of each square for each player. So I'm just going to randomly grab a prompt from the list that I've written when something happens on a board.
Love it.
On the board. Yeah. All right. Shall we refresh and get a rematch, and I'll send you the link?
Sounds great. Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
And also the Real Meat Castle hardback collection of Tony's teen written short stories. When the real gem is Tony's teenage poetry collection. That's the real gem.
Yeah.
And
oh shit! Did I?
There's a lot of really good stuff in here. A lot of excitement about the oldest game for everybody being a part of this. All right, cool.
Oh, you mean in the chat?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I sent you the wrong link accidentally, so give me 1 second.
Oh, that link was working.
Oh, it was? Okay, if it's working, it's
the
working.
one at the bottom, the 3 SM.
Yeah,
that one, that works. It looks like it works.
All right. Should I just go?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Wait, why can I not? Okay, it's not. Is it working? Let's see. Play.
I can do stuff.
Oh, you can do stuff?
Maybe I'm just first.
Oh, right. Of course.
You're
playing. Okay, so for people who aren't seeing the screen, Tony's side is white, and white always goes first. I forgot that rule does still hold.
Okay. Oh, hold on. I was trying to get our. Let me get that screen up. There we go. Now everybody can see. We can't wait too long. All right. I'm going first. Yeah. I'm going here.
Cool.
And Jeeyon and I decided we were going to play as aggressively as possible for a couple of reasons. Yeah. But one of them being we think that'll make better stream realities for y'all.
You'll notice also that, like I said, I'm employing zero strategy. I'm just trying to get my pieces onto the board, because there's like 3 different paces at which you can play this game. If you want it to be very meditative and elegaic, every single time someone moves onto the board, you would define that square on your map, which if I meet the stretch goal will be like, actually, like I will hire an artist to make these paper maps that you can draw on yourself, or get like paper fold out chessboards that you can draw on as you play.
Love that.
But for our game, I'm going to kind of sketch as we go. And at the very end, I'll read out like a sampler platter of some of these prompts.
My favorite thing is the sampler platter at the restaurant. Oh,
shit. Okay, you got my knight. Oh, man. All right. So my knight is a representation of Fanar, who is my cavalier. You got that on G4. So let's see. A random upright prompt for G4 for the village girl is the flower stall at the market. Give me a very quick description of what it looks like in the spring.
In the spring, the flower stall is a mix of vibrant blooms and fresh herbs. So we get like we get like the fragrant, like flower smell mixed with the savory smell of herbs at the same time. Is that good? Did I do it good?
Yes, I love that. I love that. So my upright square for that, the random one, is the clearing in which the Arctic foxes shed their skins, and the women who wear them in order to run unimpeded exchange the thick furs to share stories. The mirrored nightmare version of that, I'm gonna say, is a wildfire. It's an uncontrolled, too hot brush fire that completely douses the clearing in light and heat in the dead of winter, and no one makes it out alive.
Okay.
Fanar was sent there to try to save as many of the foxwives as she could, and she does not return the night that I sent her out that I was expecting.
I have a question. There are clocks going on our current setup.
I see that. Yeah. I don't know what that's about. I set it to a long game. So I don't see a countdown Oh, I see a countdown on.
It's on your side because I've moved.
Yeah, I think it's for our moves. It's like 10 minutes per move or something like that.
Mine's at 9:23, so I think it may be total cumulative time of play.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, let's hustle then.
Which may mean we just get a taste, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Man,
I gotta take some of your pieces. Okay. Oh wait, I can't swear if your kid's gonna be okay.
Oh, that's fine. They live with me and my spouse, which means one of their parents swears a whole lot.
All right, cool.
Ooh.
All right. So the pawns are all represented essentially by like the people that you see every day that mean something to you, but aren't necessarily like your closest circle, but they're like your landmarks throughout your day. So you took one of my pawns, who are defined as my subjects, like random subjects. And I'm going to say that that square was the lycanthropes village with their cozy houses all up on their raised legs full of clean hay and straw for the winter. And the subject that you took is the wolf boy, a boy raised by wolves from his day of birth to now. The upright version is that he grows up strong, proud, and fiercely loyal to his people to become a mighty chieftain of the clan. I think the nightmare version is that he doesn't survive his childhood, that because of the changing landscape and weather as the heart of winter begins to grow warmer and warmer, he gets sick. And like many children who get sick, he doesn't become an adult. Now so the upright, let me choose an upright random square for the village there. Oh, this is cute. May Day celebration, where the anglers and fishermen from the village next to you come bringing their brightest wares.
Oh. And I describe a little bit about what this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a kind of a traditional maypole piece, but it's actually like, it's a mix of like flags on fishing lines with lures. And there's this like fake process of like the children being hooked and dancing around the pole in this intricate dance before there's a huge feast of fish at the end of the night.
I love that. I love that. Wow, that's so good. I moved my knight, just so you know.
I see what you got.
Oh, man, I'm the only one getting pieces taken. So
you're also clearly, like, it's also killing your time because you have to narrate every single time.
I know. I'm going to try to be.
Why don't you move first and then we'll narrate so that we wear down a little bit of my time.
Let's do that. So that's good to know for actual plays, to figure out how to, narrate it in a way that makes sense. Wait, are you sure? Oh, okay. So that is one thing that I haven't figured out yet, is how to negate the checkmate thing, because in this, since it's an online game, it thinks we're, yeah, exactly. But now that's okay.
That's gonna endanger your queen though. Does that matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
However, according to our rules, the queens can't be taken by any piece.
Okay, so they just can't be taken. Not in a the game is over, but in a there is no way to take the queens. Gotcha.
Yeah. They are fixed points on the board.
Cool. Let me. This might become annoying though if I just do this. All right, I'm going to kill another random. Oh wait, but we needed to narrate that.
Oh, that's okay. Which one did you get?
I took one of your rook. I took your rook.
My rook. Okay, so Amani left a legacy behind her.
Wait, why is that making your time move again?
Because I have to go. Oh wait, actually, but I have to go and I'm in checkmate, so that's like. So let's see. You took a pawn and then a rook.
I took
right?
a rook
Is
and then
that
a
right?
pawn.
A rook and then a pawn. Okay, so the rooks are representatives of Amanit, the autumnal equinox ambassador, and because she didn't come back, I think as a result, my realm is now slowly but surely entering the kind of tension that results in war through no fault of my own, but just the inevitability of not having that bridge anymore. The seasons are starting to gear up to go to war with each other.
Okay.
The subject that you took, I'm going to say, is the winter naiads, the grove of winter naiads behind my palace. The pond that they live in is now empty of their song. For you, let's see. That square, let's say that is your home. Let's say that where your queen is now is actually your house in the village. Tell me what it's like when all is right with the world at the turning of the season.
When all is right with the world at the turning of the seasons, my mom hums while she cooks a stew over the stove over the fire as my dad sleeps nearby, and my aunt and I get ready to go into the woods to adventure for an hour before dinner.
I love that. All right. Oh, am I still in checkmate, really? Or is it your move, actually?
Oh, you moved into checkmate.
Did I?
Because so that yellow piece is endangered by my knight.
I see.
But it is my move. It is my move, and it doesn't matter.
Got
I'm
it.
going to keep on.
Okay.
I'm going to keep on going because of the way our
sure.
stuff works, anyways. And so, let's move some of my other pieces into a little.
Yeah, we
bit
could
more
do like
of
a few moves and then narrate like in chunks.
Yeah,
I think that works fine. So I took your pawn up at C1.
And that is an everyday person.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to do. I have to move out of checkmate. Got it. We'll do that. Do you have a prompt for that?
Yeah. For the village girl, it could have been the. Let me move all the way down to the other villagers. Okay, there is the falconer, the weaver, the miller, tavern keeper, baker, butcher, silversmith, apothecary, baker.
And something bad has happened to the baker, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be death; it just has to be a downside.
It doesn't have to be death. I'm just in a brutal mood, I guess.
No, it's fine. The baker, I think, especially since things have not been going well, I think something kind of like the everything has been nice. I think the first sign of concern is the baker has run out of flour. And there's no bread for the village this week, and so people have lost their staple, as well as like that smell usually fills the village with a sense of hope and productivity, and that's been lost from where we are now.
Woof, that's pretty brutal. Loss of hope. It's hard to recover from. Is it your play?
It is your play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and queens can't be. It's such an interesting thing to be like queens just can't be taken.
Yeah. The idea is that then no matter what at the end, you will be left on the board. Like no matter what happens. All right, that is D2. So yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just the narrative impunity that gives is amazing. Like it's a very cool thing.
Yeah. It takes some of the anxiety again of being good at chess out of it too.
Yeah. It's another pawn. So the tavern keeper is also has taken ill over the course of the last little bit. A traveler came through town and was sick, and a number of people have broken out as unwell, but the tavern keeper has had to close the town. So now both bread and beer no longer flow freely in the village, and people have become disheartened because of it.
That's rough. That is the site of the river with three mouths, which is where the ghosts of sailors who were lost to sea in the glacial oceans all gather to recuperate before moving on to the afterlife. What piece did you just take?
A pawn.
Was that a pawn? Okay. I'm going to say that piece was the solstice merchant, the head of the market that gathers only on the longest night of the year. He comes, but there's nothing in his cart, and there are no other merchants behind him. He won't talk about what happened, but there is no market that solstice, meaning that there is scarcity and a sense of bleakness and dread for the rest of the winter. And for you, I'm going to say, let's choose again at random. That is the schoolhouse. What is the schoolhouse like when everything is right with the world?
I'll try that in just a second. Why don't you make a move while I'm thinking about that? So we can switch the time back because I keep on forgetting about that piece. The schoolhouse in this time. So the schoolhouse has become a place that I typically avoid, but as the adults in the community have become disheartened, the schoolhouse is one of the last bastions of joy. And even though Kai and I are among the older of the students at this point in time, we're kind of in this place of joining with the teacher and keeping the spirits of the younger children alive.
Ooh, I like that. I think it's your move, right?
It is now, yes. Oh, dang it. I just fell into a normal way of chess thinking.
See what I mean? It's like, it's hard. It's hard not to think about that. Wait, how come was I trying to move the wrong pieces? Yes, that's why. I was like, what the hell is going on? Okay. So I took your pawn at G5.
Yep. And that's the piece of chess. I was like, my pawn's safe here because the knight's blocking them. I was like, no, it's not.
So of your fellow villagers, there's the weaver, the falconer, the butcher, silversmith, apothecary, soldier, farmer, and blacksmith are left.
The apothecary has journeyed off to go try to find medicine in the woods, and now has not been heard from in days. Everyone is fearing for what happens if this virus starts to rage through the town.
Ooh. That is, for me, that is the place where the crow-legged hut of the Witch of the Woods resides. She is a woman of much wisdom, and when all is right with the world, her home is almost completely obscured by huge ferns that guard the site of it. All right, it's my move, right?
Yep, and I keep on thinking when I move, it's not going to restart your timer, and for whatever reason it does.
It's all good. Wait, I don't understand, though, why it's not... I mean, I think I'm going to accidentally run out the clock because I can't figure out why. Oh, okay, that's why. Because I had to...
Because it wasn't safe. Yeah, you had to
yeah. So I got your knight at F6.
Yep.
Do you want me to read out the potential villagers? And we can say this is the last move before we kind of do.
I think we can probably. We'll run it out if we. I mean, like we might.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
So the other villagers, the farmer. The farmer was going to bring more hay, and so the bread maker could start bringing in making flour and trying to feed people again. However, their stores were victim to insects and rot, and kind of acrid, rotten smell lays over all the fields around the city now.
That's amazing. So because one of my pieces was already taken on that square, I do not have an all is right with the world option there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, my world has been inalterably changed as a result of that former taking. So I think it's your move now?
Yep.
Did you take a piece there? I didn't.
Nope,
see.
I did not.
Okay, all right.
You may have to move your king.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Ooh.
That's my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
So I took your bishop, you took my bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a prompt?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So that is the estuary where the migratory birds gather when the weather warms, and your aunt likes to go there to watch them when all is right with the world.
We go to the estuary together for an adventure, but there's no birds to be found. I am going to go ahead. Just let's record. So you have a bishop to do still, and actually it gives us a record here of what's happening, I guess, on the side.
Yeah.
So my king is in danger, so I move my king here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my king is in danger again.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry. That was my thinking. It's like a regular chess thing. Instinct.
I'm gonna find out what happens. I won.
Oh. All right. So if you won, which it does look
plus
like
15 points.
I don't understand the numeric point system of chess.com. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, because you won, what that means is that as the village girl, you get to decide the fate of both worlds. Is the nightmare version of the Winter Realm something the queen has only been seeing in her dreams, or does the mirrors start to crack?
Let's see. What's the question again? Say it for me one more time.
As the winner, you get to decide whether essentially this is sort of do you take mercy, whatever that looks like, or do you decide to really ram the sword home? Is the queen's like nightmarish version of the Winter Realm kind of disintegrating into heat and light out of season real, or is it just a prophecy of what could happen if the mirror actually shatters, or does the mirror start to actually shatter? In which case, I have like a very short mechanic at the end.
I'm gonna let the chat decide. Chat, tell me.
Yeah?
Tell me. Chat, tell me. Should we be merciful or should we drive the sword home? I could put a poll together, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to look for the number of responses.
We've been playing fast and loose so far.
Yeah.
And while chat responds, I could ask like, obviously we're having some chess.com. I'm going to rethink as like the vehicle to do. I really thought, I asked friends like, what's a good online way to play chess? And they're like, chess.com.
I am sure if we were looking for timers, and I'm sure there's options that we could have probably turned off the timer potentially. I don't know. But chat, while you're deciding, tell me either merciful or sword in the chat, one of the two. Type it in. Let me know what we should do. I love this. Like, I also love it because even as we were doing it, like I was like, even just in what we've talked about already, the scope of the length of time over which you could play this and the ways that you could play it because of the different elements you did it are really tremendous. Like, if you wanted to put timers on, which I would say, like, if we were playing in the way we were, if we had 15-minute timers and we had known that was going to happen at the very beginning, we probably actually would have made it through a whole game. so you could go in and you could play and you could be done in like an hour, right? Like, 'cause you're going to have 30
Oh,
minutes of total play at that point in time. You can even like pause both clocks theoretically. I guess just, I don't know, whatever. I'm not a chess expert. But you could, especially so again, a lot of, because of our common background, like even thinking about a camp environment or at a event space, or you could play over the course of a summer, gathering up the pieces with the connected, laying it out, building the map, taking a move a day, having time to think about what's happening next, or play by post or play remote. Like the scale of time in this is very interesting because it allows you to play a game in probably 45 minutes to an hour if you really wanted to, and build something very cool and and explore and create this world, or play over the course of an actual season, right? Or year, by taking it slowly and meditatively. You could even talk about if you want to play for a certain type of outcome while still playing truly and authentically, being like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like we, like leaned into this type of end game while still trying to play in the way that is most like strategically advantageous, but wouldn't it be cool if there's just a lot of cool things that triggers that I wouldn't have thought about. Well, we've got an equal amount of Merciful and Sword.
All right.
But somebody says, and I think this is really good, Gaudio, first time chat, says, whatever makes the special mechanic happen.
Ooh, wait, which special mechanic? The draw?
I think, and actually, like, because the time thing and because of where we're at piece-wise, like I may have been slightly ahead, like point-wise.
Yeah, I think so.
But I'm 100% fine if we want to play through the draw mechanic, since that hasn't.
Do you want to do the draw mechanic just to see how just to show how the oldest game works? All right, so I have not written the flavor text for the draw mechanic, so I'll just extemporize. If the two of you reach a draw, either the time you're doing a time game and the time runs out, you have the exact same pieces on the board, what have you, you can decide to play the oldest game. And the narrative conceit of this is that the two of you, the village girl, so Catalin, and I forgot my character's name, the Snow Queen and the village girl, meet in their dreams, and they agree to fight to the death in order to save one of their worlds, and that whoever falls, the world will fall. And the way that is determined is by playing the oldest game. The rules of the oldest game are as follows. You start, one person agrees to start, they challenge the other to the oldest game. They have to start with something of this world, and it has to be something that is not overpowered, unusual, supernatural, a sign of huge power. It has to be an ant or a blade of grass or an axe. It can be something that is made by people, but it can't be, to take it anachronistically.
Mundane and material.
Yeah, mundane and material, and also not like super post-industrial revolution, right? Like you don't want to create an anachronism and be like, I'm a laptop. Like that makes no sense within this narrative framework. And each round is you trying to outdo the other one, whether through actual defeat through combat or by outwitting the first person's move somehow. So we can just play, if you know the basic structure, Tony, we can just play and we can show by doing.
Sure.
Yeah, I will challenge you to the oldest game.
Awesome.
Do you accept?
I accept.
I am a bobcat silent on the snow.
Ooh, I am a bear awakened from its cave.
I am the trap, my teeth concealed under the leaves.
I am the rain that rusts your gears.
I am the salt that scours you clean. Oh, this is an important thing. So when you play the oldest game, you have to defeat the thing that came first, not something before that. So I am defeating the rust, not the trap or the bait.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am the baker who gathers you for bread.
I love that. I am the tendons cramping in your hands.
I am the fire after a long day of work.
I am the pail of water that douses you in the morning.
I am the hole that drains you from the bucket.
I am the straw that plugs you up.
I am the insect that eats you.
Yes.
I'll be a beetle, even though I don't know if beetles eat.
Oh, but not my beetle.
Not your beetle.
I have a pet rat named Beetle. My beetle's fine. I am the robin that snatches you up.
I am the falcon that knocks you from the sky.
I am the tether that binds you to the glove.
I am the. I'm looking at the tether, right? Mm-hmm. I am the sun that makes you brittle.
Ooh. I am the fog that snuffs you out. And you can't repeat. That's an important one.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, that's why that one took a minute. I am the door that bars you from the house.
Ooh. I am the wolf scratching at the beams.
The wolf scratching at the beams?
The wolf at the door. Is that like too? Because if I stumbled, no, okay.
No, that's great. Right. I was just making sure the wolf wasn't on the roof and that it was at the door. And so, I am the guard that chases you from the doorstep.
I am the king who orders your execution.
I am the heir turned against his father.
Ooh. I am the consort who cannot bear children.
Consort who cannot bear children. I am the apothecary who offers hope.
Okay, I'm having a total brain fart. I am sure there is something that could beat that, but I just can't think of it. So I'm going to say that
defeat hope. Defeat hope, Jeeyon. Do it.
I was like, wait, I guess that's really hard. I was going to be like, I'm the poison. I'm like, no, you would know. I don't know. So I'm gonna
You're gonna
I'm
call
gonna
it?
say that you
I was like,
bested me.
Gianna and I could
Yeah.
do this probably, like, we could be
Oh,
here for 3
yeah.
hours.
Yeah. And that's why the draw, hilariously, is not like Rochambeau, like a decisive,
Yeah,
like
no.
it literally draws it out
Well,
even more.
and that's the thing, like, using the oldest game, which is something that given enough time, like, yes, someone will stumble and all, like, the different pieces, but like it is a draw state that also doesn't feel like, it feels like a, yes, we have reached this place where this is going to take a while, and this kind of illustrates, even though it's almost a sheer story mechanic, it illustrates this kind of point of equilibrium, and I think that's very cool.
Yeah.
There are some other people who are just bad at the oldest game.
That is true. That is true. You always have to account for player variables. Yeah.
Them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't want to kill Hope. So that means the girl wins. Does that put me back in the same position of having to decide?
It does.
Exactly?
Yeah. Yeah. You held your ground.
This looks like. So I think.
I'd be curious to know what chat thought of that now that they got to see it.
Yeah, chat, give us some feedback. I think, like, I want to bend things really weird, but I think we go with merciful. I think rather than with sword, I think is more attraction to me. So I think we look at an equilibrium being struck through the dream, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the balance is maintained, the mirror doesn't shatter. In the original plan for this game, the reason for this I hesitate to say PvP because it's chess, like PvP has such a modern connotation.
Right.
But it's definitely not, it's a cooperative storytelling game, but it is not a cooperative mechanical game. And the reason for that was because my idea was to have like a 3-game nested setup where Dear to You is a solo keepsake journaling game that's the character creation that's nested within this 2-player game that in turn can become the campaign creation setting for Powered by the Apocalypse actual like group tabletop where people play the different characters that have come up. That I haven't given up on the idea, but I had this notion that would be done this year, and I don't think that's going to happen. I have a lot of other things I need to finish and get started and just, but that is. But
here's the cool thing about games: if you do the first 2, and then later on, you can always come back and be like, and here's the third thing.
Yeah,
like that's the best thing about games.
It was the gimmick. I'm just so fascinated with the idea of essentially having like a matryoshka of games that are modular within each other. They're not modular onto another system, but like they each bloom out into a different experience by virtue of adding players, right? Like what happens when you have to scaffold on a system that adds players. Hilariously, this was also an exercise in me trying to learn the skills involved in taking on an existing mechanical system or just narrative or engine, like Powered by the Apocalypse or Belonging Outside Belonging, because historically I do fine creating my own thing from the ground up, but I take a really long time and have a hard time adopting someone else's system, but I want to because my big game for the year, The Luminous Door, is half my own engine, half Powered by the Apocalypse. I'm like, this will be great practice. What's a really simple game where you can pick up the moves really quickly? I've played chess since I was like 7 years old. I'm not good at it, but like I know the moves and I know how it works. That'll be fine. And then I realized that I should have chosen Jenga. I should have done Dread or something, just something else, anything else.
This
but
feels
instead,
so good though. Like, I mean, and essentially like, you could dummy some of this up with checkers and a little bit of a whatever if you wanted to go down a little, but I still feel like if you're only worried about the core conceit of not the strategy, but the mechanics of chess, you're actually bringing it down to another level. And by shifting over what happens and giving a piece that's essentially immortal, the average chess player would sit down and be like, I'm no more equipped for this than somebody who has never played. As a matter of fact, maybe at a detriment because I'm going to look at constant impulses that lead me into a weird place.
Exactly. All the gambits, they do not matter. Just with changing like 3 core moves and rules of the game. And that was to try to even the playing field, because I've definitely played against people who are much, much better than me. And it's like it's not even a contest at all. But it's also because the idea is that this is a storytelling engine. This is a story game. And but the thing that I wanted to retain that I like about chess is it can be as small or as big as you want it to
Right.
be. You can be playing it just to practice the moves, or you can be playing it as this like really intense, like intellectual strategy game against not just the game but the person.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We've played like back when I was in high school and was in advanced English and wrote weird short stories based on the oldest game. The we had like inter classroom chess matches. So like we would decide as a classroom what our one move for the day was. We would move it, and then we would come back in the next. And like we're in high school.
Whoa,
Nobody in
yeah.
those classrooms. And there's also a level of group consensus, like where you're
Right.
talking through. And so like the meditative reality of that, and even as you start to think about scaling it up to like, okay, what does it look like for a table to play this and for it to potentially become a PBTA setting? Like even saying like half of us sit on one side, half of us sit on the other. We decide, like we talk really quickly about what the girl does. We talk really quickly about what the queen does. And then we rotate through who adds pieces. There's a lot of cool stuff you could do within that. But I also,
Yeah.
as another note, loved what you were saying about like hacking. Cause I always feel like I'm always like I play in Merkborgy stuff a lot, and I'm like, it's such an easy system to hack. And then anytime I do it, I'm just like, am I doing this right? Is this Merkborg? Even creating like Through the Void, like looking at Down We Go, which I'm the developer on and have developed a lot of the mechanics around. I'm like, I don't know, is this right? Like I don't know.
Right.
It's
Right. Well, because
when it's
an
mine, it's like
elegantly
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, an elegantly made system, which all of these systems that lend themselves very well to adaptation, where the engine is the same, but like the narrative and everything around it is like that designer's own thing. It's not plug and play. You can't just substitute out different
Right.
archetypes or different settings. Like you actually have to really put a lot of thought into how everything hangs on that scaffold.
Right.
What foundation are you putting underneath it? It's like you can't decide that you're going to improve an ecosystem by just going in and planting a bunch of trees. You don't know what that ecosystem is like. You don't know what the native species are. You don't know how those trees will impact that whole environment. You could be making it worse,
Right.
or you could be making it better. But you have to know that environment very well in order to know what you can give and take and adjust.
And I think
And that's why it's hard.
Yeah.
You're not just building it from the ground up, you know?
And then I think the last question is also like, what is my unique voice adding to this, and how is it not getting lost in that process, right? Like, which I mean, like obviously with this, where you're doing the nesting aspect, there's a piece of that, but there's still the desire to say, I want when somebody does this for this to feel like, and not in a selfish way, but in a way that's I don't particularly buy into the like designer GM players three-way conversation piece, but at the same time I do buy games because I like the voice of an author or creator when they create a game. Like we're playing Adam's Necronautilus and Cybermetal fused together tomorrow. I love playing Adam's games in large part because I love the way that Adam designs games and the voice that comes through in that. Now what I do at the table and what emerges out of that isn't connected to Adam directly, but when I'm reading that and consuming it as a system in a book and the art piece that it's presented as, that's about me hearing what Adam is saying. And then the play of the game is actually me turning to other people and saying, hey, cool, like we're going to do this thing. And it is a different conversation, but I still, when I sit down to play something by Jeeyon, like I want that experience of, as I'm taking that in, what is it making me think about as a game runner or player, and how am I empowered to do things based on something that author or creators thought of. And so I think those are huge things. Chat said they somebody says kill hope. It feels more like an actual contest in the game. It's very cool, which I do think like it is a very didactic or diegetic like reality of feeling like the oldest game is a moment of showing off, like of showdown between the girl and the Snow Queen rather than just players. And I do think that's very cool. Somebody else says hope wins.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to beat hope. I love the oldest game. I've used it in a lot of LARPs I've designed. Kids take to it very well.
They do.
They have that instinct for storytelling and like the ebb and flow of the world around them. but also it is a game that is suited for 2 players. It's hard to incorporate. Like I still have it in the Lumina store as like part of my own engine there, but it's a 2-player game. It's really hard to do as like and like I'm sure many people who've played group role-playing games at the table before, sometimes you do get into a dynamic where it's sort of like the spotlight's really on just 2 players, and it's like, well, then what do the rest of you do? And so
Right.
the thing I'm kind of like 50-50 on is like, is there an appealing way to occupy the rest of the group while this is going on in like a spectator way, because that can be fun sometimes, or is this something that I should reserve mostly just for 2-player games?
Yeah.
um
Yeah, and I even
yeah.
think about like, so the first board game I ever bought from Texas Game Company in Allen, Texas, which doesn't exist anymore,
Mm.
was 3-player chess. And I'm not asking you to write another 180
I'm just like,
prompts.
how does that even work?
Well, it's a
Chess?
triangular board. It's very interesting.
No.
It's
Oh my
cool because
God.
your opening moves can immediately start slaughtering people on either
I was
side of
gonna
you.
say,
But
wait, I have
you
to
can
look
also
this up.
you can, it's yeah. I think it's
That's
called I think
wild.
Trichess, Trichess. I still have the board. I don't have the game anymore, but I've over the last 30 years of my life kept track of that board. I had to go out to my dad's car to scour for more change because I didn't know how to calculate tax. But I've also played 4-player chess, right? And
Whoa.
so there are interesting dynamics there, but there's also like thoughts like, okay, but like, so for somebody who comes from an OSR background, I also think about like player skill, like we talked about, like the concept of somebody who's the mapper. Like, you guys tell me what
Mhm.
you're doing, I'm going to map it, right? Or the
Yeah,
concept
yeah.
of like, you're going to be the chess person, but I'll like, when it happens, I'll hit the narrative part and so is going to map it, right? Like, you can
Oh, that
almost,
would be
you
cool to
could
have
think
like a
about
third
breaking,
person doing the
right,
map, or even 2 people doing the map, one for the queen and one for the
right.
village girl.
And
Yeah.
one person who's focused on the chess part and one person who's focused on, okay, when you do the chess move, I'll design the narrative. So you're going to dictate who actually takes out who, but then I will
Mhm.
decide what does this, and then so is going to map it. And you can actually end up with like 3 people with each having their own focused role as it happens.
Absolutely.
But and even in a quick mode, that feels really good because you're just like, okay, you're
Right.
moving on, like, but also even in the meditative mode of like almost leaving notes for each other. 6 people were playing, and it's like, all right, like I moved this person here. This is what happened. Write down a note that's the narrative on what that meant, and then so is going to come back the next day and draw what that looks like on the map before the other team
Yes.
then like
Yes.
does their piece and then responds. And like, it doesn't change any of the speed pieces, but you could essentially let people focus down into what I really like is like, I actually at one point wrote in the chat, and it was the first time I've ever said this about a game, and it was so interesting that yours, or like this game specifically, I was like, yeah, all I'm doing is killing people and making stuff up. Because somebody was like, "Oh, Tony, you're so good at these prompts," and I was like, "I'm literally just murder hoboing right now. There is no anything else other than I'm like, yeah, this is why that happened. This is what it looks like." Which
Does that make this game OSR?
it may make this game may be the most OSR game I've ever played.
Sorry, that was like a verbal shit post. I didn't actually mean that. I don't want to get in a fight on Twitter. I just
No,
said
but
it to be funny. But
I mean,
yeah,
I'm writing a game with an anti-canon emergent narrative that has an oracle system to allow for GM-less play. That is
Ooh.
literally about. I mean, this is down we go, but it's literally
Yeah.
about dungeon delving. But
Ooh, yeah.
the cool narrative that can emerge from that is what we've really cranked into. Anyways, but like I mean, I'm a big fan of like when OSR and story game stuff meet each other. That's where some of the most beautiful design stuff happens.
It really can be. Yeah, I agree.
And,
I agree.
And Roland says this in chat just now, but I think this actually pretty articulates exactly what we're talking about. This entire game feels like a proper Wizard's Duel, almost like very earliest fiction for Magic the Gathering.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
That's like a pull quote. I'm gonna capture that for you and drop it in Discord so
absolutely
you can see it.
Roland, if it's okay, I would love to use that in marketing copy, because that just, not for anybody else but you and me, because you said it and it makes me so happy that you said it. That's like very close to the vibe that I'm trying to capture. Yeah. My biggest challenge in writing this game is going to be not getting too into the weeds, right? Because the most elegantly written chess manuals that I've read are like, here are the basics, and then here are variations. There's like an infinite way that you can, number of ways you can play it, but like here's like the streamlined core.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I have all the stuff. And what I have to do, and what I'm trying to buy myself the time with the crowdfunding campaign to do is like get that core and then be like, you know, organize the variations in a way where it's not overwhelming for people and it feels like a playground, right? Like here's the actual playground, but then here's the jungle gym, here's the swings, here's the slide, like, you know, have it feel freewheeling in that way, but actually have enough structure that people can kind of in a guided way figure out what will best suit them and their needs in that game. Yeah.
No, like I said, I had an absolute blast playing. It was really, and like,
I'm so glad.
And I talked about being giddy before it came in. Like it is, like I was somewhat joking, but also very serious. Like, I don't know, like Jeeyon's gonna freeze my heart in an hour and a half with chess or something. Like, I don't know what, because it really was like, can we play this? You're like, here's what it is. And you had a couple posts about it, but I was like, I literally have a general idea about what we're doing, but I know less than almost any other game going in. I wasn't worried about that at all. Like that's actually very freeing for me as a host to be like, I trust this person enough to just be like, yeah, whatever. And then to be able to just dive into it.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah. I just love like even you being like, can I, like the fact that technology didn't work for you and you're like, can I just read out of my giant notebook? Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, bring a mushroom to talk about before we start.
Why not? Right.
That to me is such a fun space to play in. And it made it like I can imagine somebody who's never played a role-playing game before, but who isn't into board. And this is it's like a passion of mine is RPGs that trick people who only play board games into thinking they're going to sit down to play a board game.
Yes. I love it. I love tricking people into having
nothing
fun.
better than tricking our friends. But especially somebody who might be like a more serious, like chess person who thinks of themselves and maybe a little bit more erudite, being like, hey, we're going to use this, but we're also going to use it to just like kind of answer some questions as we go. So every time you take somebody out, I'll ask you a question based on a couple different things. And and you tell me what, and like, that feels very easy. That feels very like, I can do this.
And if you wanted to, you could use this as a scaffold for like a podcast actual play where you actually are in character and getting really into it. Hell, you could create like an ensemble cast that grows over time as different pieces get taken or saved. There's a lot of narrative potential, hopefully, within this game that, you know, again, like I like making things that people can use as guides for their own sorts of experiences rather than being very hemmed in about like, this is how you play, this is the rigid structure, because I'm just not good at playing those kinds of games. So I'm not great at making them. But also like there is a certain self-consciousness. It's very vulnerable to role play, even with friends. Like you're basically saying, let's do this thing that comes very instinctively to us as children, which is just play make-believe. But now we're going to do it with adults with all of the baggage of like self-consciousness and insecurity and what have you that you bring into any social interaction. And to be able to lift that to play is a really special thing. And this might be a bit of a stereotype, but people who tend to gravitate toward board games, I think, do have a higher threshold of self-consciousness around the storytelling aspect, the role-playing aspect. And
they do.
Anything that can help with that scaffolding to kind of like get them to realize like we're all here to tell a story and have fun together. No one's judging you, you know?
I'm going to talk a little bit about my theoretical actual play that could be started from this in just a second. But if you have questions and you're watching right now, or if you're watching later, or if you've traveled through time and are watching this from the past somehow, go ahead and type your questions in now or in the chat down below, and we'll get them answered for you.
That's right, now or never, because I think we're going pretty soon.
Yeah, but also want to remind everybody, go to ttrpg.link/sqgame. It's right below Jeeyon's face on the screen, and you can get signed up for the email for getting notified whenever it goes live for funding, which actually I do want to give you a second to talk a little bit about. You're the first person we've had on who's made that choice, that strong choice, and so I do want to give you a chance to talk about that in a second. Let me theorize about my actual
strong choice
real quick. Well, I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not saying it's weak to do it otherwise. I'm saying a lot of people have adopted a moderate stance. You've been very clear. I want to give you a space about, here's the theoretical actual play, right?
Yes.
It's short. It's short. It's not long. It's like 15, maybe 20 minutes an episode. Maybe 30 minutes for a long episode, like big shifts and thing happening. You have the kind of consistent cast of maybe like a narrator who's just helping facilitate things and keep things moving and doing the talking of like some of the narrative kind of behind the scenes piece. You've got the person who's playing the Snow Queen, the person who's playing the girl. You've got this cast of other actors, right? You identify some of those as primaries at the end, but essentially like you're only doing one move per episode. And you're doing that move
Oh.
at the end of the episode. So you do all the character creation on one episode. You introduce some people. You've identified who kind of that cast of characters is going to be. You record them later on, kind of get a chance to meet them. They, rather than you saying their line, like you record them saying their line. But anyways, at the end of that episode, you make your first set of moves, right? And you make if no characters are getting taken, you continue to make moves, and you just say what those are. But as soon as a character gets taken, or if a set of characters gets taken, because you may bulk it like one each. But I think if you just do one, it's still good. You pause. That's the end of that episode.
I love that.
That gives you the time to book, record, and bring in the voices of whoever that is.
Yeah.
To tell their story with the person. And then you play through that a little bit more. You get to the next character taken.
That is such a good idea. Also, 15 to 30 minutes, that's the Magnus archives, right? That's a very successful amount of time for a single episode.
It's the car ride to work.
Like, oh my God. You know what, Tony? Once the quick start is done, like whatever the streamlined, like this actually makes sense and isn't split between 4 different tomes in my apartment, I'll just send it to you regardless of how the crowdfunding is doing, regardless of everything. If you want to do this actual play, like this is me verbally giving you, like you can do it. Do it, because that sounds amazing.
I want Jeff to do it because Jeff will do it better. However, I would be
you and Jeff.
If people are interested in this, I'm totally down to try to make this. Even if we can't do a whole thing, even if we just did we're gonna do 5 moves, we're gonna do it over a week, we're gonna record it, we're gonna see how it goes. That'll be the next crowdfunding project, is us funding what we need to do the actual play for the Snow Queen. Okay, so a lot of people don't know this. You're the first person we've had on who has made this choice, who isn't just like a part of Zemo and doing something small. And I think the other one that we had on actually still is using Kickstarter. So a lot of people know Kickstarter recently announced blockchain technology is imminently coming to us, the essential structure of how they use it. What that looks like, we don't know yet. Right. But environmental sustainability is a huge choice for you. And so you're not wherever this ends up, the answer currently is not Kickstarter.
Yes. Yeah. I think that what I will say is I think that Kickstarter actually truly does not have bad intentions. I think that from their point of view and where the company is coming from, this is their way of trying to walk a middle road. But from what I know of the environmental impact of blockchains that also participate or host even partially cryptocurrency chains and things like that, it's just really detrimental. There's no need for it, right? And the thing that where Kickstarter, that puts Kickstarter in a different category than say PayPal or Stripe or Twitter for that matter, is that Kickstarter is a public benefit corporation, which means by tax law, they are obligated to the public to act in public interest and public good. And to me, this is very counter to that. And so even if this ends up being vaporware and they don't do anything, and this was just the worm on the hook to net big investors, until they're less radioactive in reputation, if nothing else, I really don't feel good working with them. And that's honestly my gut, and whether I feel good doing something drives a lot of my business making decisions. Yeah. So I emailed GameFound. GameFound predictably has been inundated with lots of amazing creative independent designers.
We're big GameFound fans.
We're big GameFound fans. I love GameFound. I think the platform is beautiful. And to be fair, they did not tell me no. They told me yes, but in April. So I have to wait until second quarter. But in the meantime, I still have to make a certain earnings level by first quarter. So I am trying to basically use my mailing list, my email list, as the pre-launch page, which means I'm manually updating the number of subscribers instead of putting in like a count up plugin, because I don't know how to do that. MailChimp has like a landing page setup thing, a sign up thing that I can basically approximate the function, if not the smooth, streamlined, integrated, automated stuff. And that's okay. The cost here is that I'm just manually updating and showing people, but it's working well, right? Like if I were to have launched this game as a pre-launch on Kickstarter, I would have hoped to hit, 200 followers on the pre-launching. We're at over 300 right now on the mailing list, which I'm using as that thing. And again, very easy to unsubscribe as soon as the game is launched. You could unsubscribe if you want to. It's not going to be a frequent newsletter. So, but I'm taking that as, knock on wood, a good sign, right? A good sign that the marketing strategy that I'm using outside of Kickstarter is still working, that the game itself is compelling. I am recording with you. I'm going to be doing a session with Jeff on Party of One. I am going to be talking to Jeremy Gage, who's lovely and so thoughtful. And I'm also going to be reaching out to a couple of friends of mine who are games journalists and seeing if there's interest in this particular flavor of weird and interesting game, and just kind of do what I would normally do just without the platform.
Right.
Because I do think that this is a good reminder that getting overly reliant on any given platform does have its drawbacks.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to become truly independent in that way.
And I do love, like I said, I love the strong stance, but also the gracious stance of right now is not a time that you could justify doing a Kickstarter. That doesn't mean to say you're never run a Kickstarter again, because the company could change. And again, blockchain technology, I'm not going to say could change. It could become less environmentally impacting. It could become more sustainable. It could become a better way of computing. It could do all those things. It's not right now. Right, 20 years from now, it might be normative, and just as it might be low or lower energy use. We're nowhere near that right now, and so
exactly.
So it's
and
not,
for context, this opinion and just like where I am right now was not just me pulling stuff out of the ether or deciding that I'm the authority on this in any way. I have a lot of friends who work with blockchain technology, with tech at this level, with companies that are larger than Kickstarter or CeeLo that have like incorporated these technologies. And I have been talking to them for hours a week after that announcement. And the most optimistic, glass half full, rose-colored glasses friend of mine, what he said about proof of stake versus proof of work blockchain. A lot of the goalpost moving in these arguments around crypto is that proof of stake actually is just as much energy, if not less, than running a credit card. However, proof of stake has not been run at this scale before. It does exist, but it has not been run at this scale on this model with these companies. And the company that they're partnering with, CeeLo, the way in which they are describing their operations as carbon neutral or carbon negative is by something called carbon offsetting, which is not real. It's a greenwashing term. What it means is after we have created some kind of environmental detriment or degradation, we will give money to an NGO that says it's going to plant trees.
Right.
The paper trail often gets very muddied. The actual benefit of planting trees, even if it makes sense in that ecosystem, which is not the norm, actually, it takes 10 years for one tree to make up for the carbon that has been spent the decade prior. And by then, how much more spending has been going? Again, this is a continuation of this like expansionist mindset of, oh, well, we'll take care of this later, that has landed us in the hot water that we're in now on a global scale. And
I want to point out, this isn't like just the hot new thing for you as far as just like people who may not be familiar with Jeeyon's work. Like this is like you do like we talk about this as game creators, as RPG creators, like to a certain degree, we're in the business of killing trees to put games on there. Which hurts to say. However, your model is actually, you do a lot of I have yet to make it to one of your Kickstarters quickly enough to get the coolest, biggest level and have that money in my bank account to know I can pay for it.
I mostly do digital only.
Handmade, sustainable, with digital release being the lowest.
Yeah, I mean, sustainable is a tricky word that also can be used as a greenwashing thing. What I will say is that I reuse materials as much as possible. That the reason I haven't gone into printed goods or merchandise yet is because I'm being really scrupulous about who will be manufacturing it, who will be fulfilling it. And it's not just the environmental angle, it's also things like labor, right? Like if I hire a fulfillment warehouse, is everyone getting paid and is labor being treated in the way that I feel good about? And these are all very, in some ways, subjective measures, but environmental stewardship is a cornerstone of my deepest held values. And I'm someone who does believe that while the systemic burden of all of the injustices of the world, not to be too broad, but like literally might rest on, a very small handful of individuals or entities, nonetheless, individuals do actually have an impact, and the individual choices we make do materially impact the world. And it's not an infinitesimal thing. It is quite big.
Right.
And one person in the Western world, this came out of the climate meeting, that huge report that depressed a lot of people. I was one of the few people who was like, actually, there's one really big kernel that suggests that individual change can be quite meaningful, which was that on a global scale, anyone making the equivalent of $38,000 a year in USD contributes to 50% of global carbon emissions and warming and pollution, which sounds like a bummer, but actually what that means is if you are in the Western world and you're making that or more, then your individual action has a huge material impact and chance for improvement. And if you're a small business owner and you're doing things like deciding manufacturing and printing at a large, like, oh my God, you could have such a huge positive change, or at the very least, a less bad impact. And mitigation is still good.
Right.
10% less bad is still better than just going whole hog,
Right.
let alone doing something totally extraneous like cryptocurrency. We don't need it.
Right.
In no way is it essential. And so that's like a lot of the deep held feeling that's been driving like very pragmatic logistical decision making. Right. And
Yeah.
it's been serving me well in terms of money and profit as well, because I'm not getting sucked into big overhead.
Right.
I'm not getting dinged. Well, I did kind of get dinged by the shipping debacle inevitably because, you know, everyone did, but it's not on the scale that a lot of my friends are unfortunately having to deal with. And so, you know, it does pay off in other ways too, for sure.
No, when we made the decision to do regional printing and fulfillment for Down We Go, a big, like, people were like, oh, it's great because you're saving people money and avoiding VAT and all that stuff. And I was like, yes, also carbon trail, like way shorter when I'm printing locally and fulfilling locally. Like, yes, I'm having to pay for 3 print runs, and yes, I'm not making as much money because of that. And yes, it's absolutely worth making that choice because the numbers don't shift enough for me to not care about that. And I mean, practically, it also means like, if you're in the EU, you don't have to worry about paying $20 to back the game, so you're more likely to back the game, right? Like, all those things they can be good business and still simultaneously do it. Like, we currently have, for one of my companies, a larger plastic footprint than we want. We're trying to move to sustainable packaging.
Sure, yeah.
It's hard, but like, we're making intentional choices to move that direction step by step, incrementally, to do the best that we can.
And just as long as you're not fooling yourself about anything, right? Like, I think something we've seen in the last 2 years for many reasons is a shocking level of self-rationalization. Even when information is in front of you that's like clear as crystal, people will tell themselves things that just end up with like, well, I wanted to do this thing and this is my cognitive dissonant way of getting there, so that I can just do the thing I wanted to do. And that, you know, that really just, it drives me nuts. That is one of my like biggest pet peeves as a person, and also business wise, it makes no sense to me. And I just don't make decisions that way. And so far that has been going okay, even with the vulnerability of like, sure, I can't depend on like a huge crowdfunding windfall, but I don't need one because I've kept my operations pretty slim, and because I, you know, don't have employees on a payroll, which means even though I do contract people, let's say worst case scenario, I had to be like, hey, I can only pay you what these contracts said. I can't hire you for the bonus stuff. I've still fulfilled my obligations, and those people are not like in a lurch, right? They're constructing their own income in a different way. They're not dependent on me. I'm not failing anybody except myself if I don't make a certain earnings. And I want to keep it that way. I want to, because that is what enables me to make decisions that feel like I'm coming from a position where I can think about collective good rather than just me. I think that it is absolutely possible to build personal capital in an ethical way, in a way that is not horrible and leaves a bunch of people trailing behind. Like, that is not intrinsic to building a stable and secure life. I really strongly believe that. So
I love it. And if you love wizard battles between a little girl and a magical snow queen, or if you love ethical sustainability and consistent ethic around business practices, either way, you should go to ttrpg.link/sqgame to get signed up for the email list for that. This is a conversation. If you don't like this part of this conversation, man, ignore my channel for the next month and a half. At least. I mean, probably longer than that, but we're going to have some great conversations with other creators whose games we're featuring around some of the same things they're making. Some of them are sticking with Kickstarter, right? Because it's where they're at. It's where, from a financial stability standpoint, neither Gianna or I want people to go hungry. It's a choice they're making. Other people have moved off of it completely. Other people are moving to different platforms because they've been able to and available. We want to just encourage people, if you're able to support creators, if you don't want to support Kickstarter, we think that's great. If you're able to support creators in other ways, please consider how you do that. And also, if you want that actual play to happen, my Ko-fi link's down below. It's a great place to hit that up. I'll make a goal and for that specifically. I've made one Ko-fi goal so far that was like, I created this goal so that I feel beholden to tell my friends I have a Ko-fi. I'll make an actual one for this actual play. I'll figure out what we need to make.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I'll definitely pass that around. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me. This was so much fun. I had so much fun.
All my screens just went black. Whoop, everything looks weird. Everything looks weird. I don't know.
The mirror cracked. The mirror is shattering. Oh no.
The mirror is shattering. It's time for us to go. I'm going to be back not on our channel, but on Eat, Crit, and Die in an hour and 15 minutes for an interview tonight about Through the Void. Again, real quick before we hop off and wave at the screen, because I know we need to. We've got Hull Breach on Saturday afternoon. We've got Through the Void that you can go support right now if you want to. It is our if you like weird emergent narrative OSR story game crossovers, this is a space one of those.
Yeah.
It's very grounded in classic kind of dungeon drawing tropes. And then tomorrow we're throwing our Death Agents into Pentagram City of Cyber Metal with Adam Voss, Will Yobst, and Spencer Campbell. We're going to be all here live playing Necronautilus. So come back for that. We'd love to have your support in any of those things. But until next time, we're going to wave at the screen until I take us offline. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching.
And